God knows that I am born to see Ambazonia liberated before I go down.
There's so many things happening on the Ambazonian struggle for independence scene that I wanted to, just synthesize this for our viewers. And for that, I have invited one of the best of our citizens who understand these issues very well, and that would be no other than Barrister Bobga Mbuton. You all know him, Harmony Bobga Mbuton. Barrister, are you there?
I'm right here.
Okay, so you heard my introduction. There's so many little issues that are happening right now. What I really want to do, I'll select a few. I know we cannot deal with all of them, but I'll select a few, and you just tell me how you think about them. And the first one actually has to do with you.
Oh boy.
Yes, I mean you personally. I saw a poster which was circulating, and on that poster it says, "Have they silently abandoned struggle?" And you were one of the prominent faces on there. We know you were one of the first to start this problem on the ground. So when they talk about abandoning it, and your picture is there, that is worrisome. What have you seen the poster, by the way?
Yes, I have. And I want to tell you that is the front page of the Guardian newspaper in Cameroon. And that newspaper is quite old. It's been in circulation for more than 3 months.
Oh, you mean the poster itself?
Yeah, not it's the front page of the Guardian newspaper, the Guardian Post newspaper in Cameroon.
No, I know that, but you're saying the publication has been 3 months old?
The thing is that when people get to a blind spot, they go into the archive and they pull something that could trigger people to talk. And a lot of people have been talking, but I have been silent, not idly silent, but analytically silent, processing more than what the newspaper wants to dish out to its readers, processing, in fact, the entire revolution as I had mobilized the lawyers to reignite and put on a trajectory that it had never been before in 2016. The best project in terms of outcome is not in the immediate outcome, but in its preparation. So each time we go down the valley, what I do is I look for where the sedimentation from the hill after the rains fall have gathered the manure. So I put them together so that when I plant the ideas, we will not have just grass, but an accelerated growth of the baobab that can form the pillars of the revolution all over again.
Man, that's very deep.
Well, that's the product of reflection.
What's the intention of anybody writing that, whether it was 3 months ago or last week or today? What's the intention of saying that? Because this revolution is not. It's not. First of all, we were attacked, so we're basically reacting to things. This is not the route that we wanted to take in resolving the issues with Cameroon. You don't know who is paying them to do that kind of stuff.
Well, let me share this with you.
Yes,
the editor-in-chief of that newspaper, the publisher, the publisher and editor-in-chief of that particular newspaper, I have challenged him over the period of 5 years that I've been on exile in this country, that I want to grant a major interview to clarify the nature of the conflict, the parties to the conflict, so that we can have a peaceful resolution of the conflict instead of people falsifying information and peddling them to becloud what the dispute is all about. And he has never opened up. So when he publishes things like that, if you look at even the people who are published on that newspaper, they put my picture there and some other credible people, with people that, as far as this revolution is concerned, I don't want to quote names, they stink. I mean, they're such a compromise. Keep aside the revolution itself. They're such a compromise of themselves that I think their parents' bones in their graves rattle against their conduct towards the people of Ambazonia.
Yeah, I understand that. When I looked at it too, I felt like some people are elevated by having your picture and all of theirs on the same page. So
sometimes it is said that the non-smoker who stays by the smoker could die first from lung cancer than the man who smokes directly.
Absolutely.
They kind of clone the profile of others in order to exist.
Absolutely. And like I think you clarified the intention of the person who is doing all that kind of work. He bunched all those people in order to. I think he's out more to ridicule the struggle or fulfill some goal that Cameroon wants to say. Oh,
no, he's doing bread and butter journalism.
Okay.
Yeah, he receives subvention, quote unquote. Subvention or bribe or whatever you call it. Recently there was a publication that a number of journalists in private media houses were on the public service payroll in Cameroon. Who knows if this one too is on that payroll, because his editorial is so doubtful. He is one of the major media that propagates the idea that we do not have restorationist fighters or defenders of our right to self-determination, that we have separatists. How can you separate from something you have never been joined? And a newspaper that promotes it is serving not the interests of truth. I'm not talking about serving the interests of Ambazonia, the interest of truth. He is serving the interest of the bad guy.
So now that he publishes in English, is he an Ambazonian?
He's from Cambe.
Oh. Okay, I'm not going to call him names.
No. I mean, I don't. They know that I left Cameroon not because I lack courage, but because I need to be alive to fight again.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I've always called a spade a spade, as far as this revolution is concerned, from my childhood till today.
Yeah, let me say this, and we would move on because we have better things to talk about. On that picture was also the picture of Honorable Joseph Weber, and basically what he's trying to say is that all these heroes, all Ambazonian heroes who have been very courageous, stood up and did the right thing. That I don't know what he. I did not understand. I guess that's why I'm asking you. Is he saying that Barrister Bobga has disappeared, or Honorable Weber has disappeared, and some of the other important pictures that are on there? It's not even journalism. It's something witchcraft, or I'm looking for a word.
You are playing a very smart interviewer. And I know the intent is to cut the artery and let the blood come out so that you see the color. Let me tell you upfront, the purpose, and I believe it is sponsored, of that kind of journalism is intended to provoke the thawing from silence of people like Honorable Joseph Weber, people like myself, because the government of La République du Cameroon or Cameroon has sleepless nights when they do not know what is going on in our minds, and we are loose. We are not under their radar as that much. So they are using this young man as an agent provocateur to tickle us to laugh so that they know whether we are crying or we are laughing indeed. But as you know, just like the Scots brew whiskey, my political expression is not like you harvest palm wine and take straight to the shop. I take time to brew my views and make sure that anybody who drinks it carelessly will get drunk sooner than he expects.
Absolutely. I was going to say, whoever drinks it carelessly will have a very serious hangover the next day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another way of putting it.
Yes. Let me also say this. I think they do that in order to, because you see, if you look at the bigger picture, Cameroon is always trying to minimize the struggle. And I think one of the things they will want to do is tell the world that, oh no, the struggle is ended. We've taken care of it. And so they want to plant little seeds like that so they can say, oh, this is a newspaper publishing. Look at the leaders. Nobody hears from them again. I think that's part of the reason.
We call that in law the fabrication of evidence.
Yes, absolutely.
And let me tell you, Cameroon government has depleted its treasury by using money to engage in such fruitless endeavors. You remember not too long ago, as a number of professors were, running around Washington area there. One of them, and I would like to withhold the name, actually asked me to meet in the hotel room after 10 p.m.
I'm sure you went.
Well, I said, really? He said, yes, we're very busy. So I said, okay. I was fired up. I got onto my computer and wrote a memo. That was a prelude to the so-called conference in Yaoundé to broker peace.
Was it let me ask you, was it a
I'm not going to say whether it was female or male because
just asking.
Well, and if it is a man, I can never trust because these days men rape men. And if it is a woman, you can be sure that there was a bottle of cyanide to be rubbed on my lips so that I quench. But God knows that I am born to see Ambazonia liberated before I go down.
No, I think you are because because you're here. I think if we were back there, you would not be where you are now doing what you're doing. So absolutely. I just wanted to also let the people of the Guardian newspaper in Cameroon know that Honorable Wiba he's doing fine. He's very active. In fact, there's a big rally scheduled for Germany on the 14th of May. Yes, in Stuttgart, on the 14th of May. So if the Guardian is very interested in what Honorable Weber is doing, I think they should be in Stuttgart, Germany on the 14th of May. Am I correct there, sir?
You are very correct, but I can tell you the journalists should be careful, because the Ambazonians in Germany who congregate to receive Honorable Weber in Stuttgart are no nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. He shouldn't take an appointment that he will regret with that event. He should ask other journalists to monitor and send him the truth. And when the truth comes, let him publish it.
And the highlight of that meeting is the catchword that they're putting out there: the blood of every slain Ambazonian cries out to us. We must heed their cries now with action. So I think we can end this with that Ambazonians have a lot more action waiting for. You know, I spoke with Teres Banga Wakai one time, and he said we're like 5 minutes past midnight in the struggle. I think we're like 15 minutes. So those who are in a rush, we're not in a rush. You know, let me. I'm going to keep you on this for just another second, Barrister. You know, La République used to think that time was on their side, but it seems to me that it's they now who are hurrying to say, oh, the revolution is over. What's going on?
I think a lot of people must have misread La République, because the case theory of Cameroon Republic in its communication to the international community and the local community is that there's no problem. So they have been in self-deception, but they have been holding nocturnal meetings where they lick their wounds. I can tell you, don't even bother about what is said up with respect to our folks who, out of fear from state terrorism, appear to be supporting the government. None of them. There is not a single Southern Cameroonian, and I can swear my life on that, because they used to communicate with me. Even those ones you see on newspaper, on television, talking and praising Paul Biya, lies. Liberate Southern Cameroon. They will come and confess and tell you that I was between the devil and the deep sea. Let me tell you, when they hold their meetings, these people always filter information out to us. What money do we have to get the intelligence from that country which is supported by France? And we have no support. They have described me on a consistent basis as le cerveau de la révolution anglophone. That is the brain, the modem of the Anglophone revolution. That who knows what he is thinking next? Francophones don't tell us this. It is our brothers who participate in those meetings who leak the information out. So, my brother, trust me, La République was established on falsehood, and it has transformed falsehood into its modus operandi till today. That is the country that supported the United States in the Security Council to carry out Operation Desert Storm in Iraq. Today, they are already jumping as typical prostitutes to go and sign a military cooperation agreement with the Soviet Union, with Russia, simply because the opinion in the United States has shifted grounds as far as the idea of the identity and right to self-determination, the security of the people of southern Cameroon, called Ambazonia today, is concerned. Terrorized by the new reality, like quicksand, they are being blown into distant lands where they know not exactly what they should expect.
Yeah, I was going to come to that, but let me go back to what you just said about these people who are participating in really in the demise of the people of Ambazonia. You made it sound like they're heroes, or they have a role to play, or that they're patriots. Is that the best way to be patriotic about the struggle, by collaborating with the enemy? Because when Atanganji comes out and says some of the nonsense that he says, or the falsehood that he says, it registers in the international community. Like I think you said there was actually a term in law where you talked about planting false evidence. So what is happening is that they have the head of government, prime minister, one of ours. They have Atanganji, and in fact they time Atanganji well, just so that when our people are begin to assert their right to self-determination, then they take one of us, and put there, and they put the most corrupt and the most stupid one there. It does. So I don't know if you're trying to say there's a positive. Let me just finish, sir.
I hear you well, but let me tell you, you can easily distinguish from people who have offered themselves and those who have been forced. I wasn't including those who have offered themselves. If Atanganji can steal COVID money and go and build a church in Betiland, would I be including such a person into those who are forced simply by circumstances? If Dion Gute, who has been serially married, finds it a consolidating move to marry a Betty woman just to consolidate his position, do you think that is somebody who is operating purely and simply under fear? No. I did not speak in absolute number terms. There are some people who are simply entrapped. I know business people who have said, if Frundi comes during campaign and asks for money, I will give. CPDM comes, I will give. This one comes, I will give. Not because I like them. I'm a businessman. I just want to be let free to do my business. Look at the configuration of business location. It is not out of the viability on principle. Most powerful businesses in Bamenda, in Kumba, in Victoria, they were forced by tax strangulation to move and establish in Douala or in Yaoundé. To the extent that artisans, like people who make upholstery, beds, they were forced to move out of Bamenda and go and establish in Yaoundé. Mark you, these are the category of people who every night regret why this country has not been liberated by now, and they pay lip service for survival purposes. This morning I was reading about a British soldier who was captured by the Russians. Do you think that the language he was speaking in captivity is a language he will speak when he is not in captivity?
No, I don't think so. But let me say this, okay? I just want to come back and clarify this for our people. You know, I think we're better off. I think we are better off talking about these people as a category, rather than going into that category and start differentiating the different people who are in that category. Because if you look at Atanganji, you would say something. If you look at Diongute, like you just mentioned, you would say something. If you look at Philemon Yang, look at what was happening in Oku, I think a week or two ago, where people came from Yaoundé and stage the women there. And right now the people of Oku are not. I don't think Oku is the same. I think
no. Look, let me tell you.
So each of them. Let me say
it is
this.
very easy to see the bad cocoyam from amongst us because Philomen Young, all those people, they are children of the establishment. They have been recycled right from secondary school up to now. There is no doubt about who they are. And if you are expecting anything from them, you are deceiving yourself. And their activities don't last. Recently, what happened in Oku? The people came out and were communing with the restorationist defenders, right?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that from a strict revolutionary standpoint, the people who are in the gray area, don't push them too far away from you because you can harvest them. Your opponent is struggling to harvest them. The Catholics talk about souls going to limbo because God still hopes to harvest them and take to heaven rather than let Satan take them to hell.
No, I get it. And yes, sometimes.
I want to support your point. This is not an endorsement of hanging on the fence. Every southern Cameroonian, Ambazonian, who knows the truth, if you are operating out of fear, go to the shoemender's shop and get glue. Shut your mouth. When you make no statement, we know that in your stomach you are thinking about home. But if you go making statements, we know that you have chosen a side.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. I want to, and I think this was not supposed to be in the same line, but it falls. Frundi went and was making a statement, and I listened to the statement. I'm not going to read the statement, but Frundi, here's what Frundi is saying. Frundi is saying that what is going on back home is because of people in the diaspora who have their lives moving on, their children are going to school, and somehow they are the reason why there's a problem back home. Is that true? Is that true? And I could not find anyone more. Let me finish. Let me say this. Just hold a second. I cannot find anyone more befitting to ask this question than you, because I know that we in the United States were reacting to what you in particular was doing on the ground, and were following and cheering you on until they started shooting, and then you escaped. So where did the fighting going on today? So where did do they just want the diaspora not to exist? Do we have our parents and is that our homeland too? But are we the people who caused that problem?
Let me explain something to you. The desperation of Frundi, political desperation, kind of makes me hold back from commenting about him because I know him like the back of my hand. Before multi-party was authorized in the 90s, the CPDM claimed that they were democratizing from within. So in that their first step, they had a khaki list and a green list. The green list, which is the one that would thrive, was that of Achidiachu in Bamenda. And then the khaki list which was like dry leaves that cannot produce any chlorophyll, was that of Frundi. I had just come back from Nigeria as an attorney, and Frundi, who had met me when I was still in law school graduating, told me, look, I need your help, younger brother. I went to every rally in the entire Mezam division, which then included Ngokutinjia, and I was advising them the members of Frundi's team what to say, what not to say, given its political legal implications. When they launched the SDF, and that is where I met Joe Weber, we were the people who did the implantation of the SDF. In fact, there was a group they called Hunting Dogs that went out to get people into the inner core to support those who were dealing with the conceptual work. We went to the field and brought people. Frundi had professed that the SDF was a move to restore the independence of Southern Cameroon. I want to remind you, he did secondary school in Lagos, in diaspora, and he came from that diaspora with venom to recover Southern Cameroon from La République's yoke. When the SDF was registered as a political party, it was the first time a political party was registered because his uncle, faced with the chickening out of other members who conceived the SDF, told him, John, you cannot do the work of the scribe. That's an intellectual exercise. I will handle it. You have charisma more than myself. I'm a university professor. I can talk to my students, but you have the charisma as a salesman. So you're going to be the chairman until things fall in place and we reorganize. He took the rostrum and did very well. And as his translator, his first personal assistant, his legal advisor, I can tell you, and if Frundi challenges it, let him have a debate on CNN with me. You know, when things came to the head and the US embassy again told Cameroon government that you better open up to these people, they did some arm twisting and they came up with the thing they call liberty laws. And one of those liberty laws was the law on political party, which was post the registration of SDF under the old law. Because all that was required was the courage to register a party. They came and forced us. I am in that picture with late Barrister Muna and Frundi. We were called to the governor's office to go and register SDF all over. And I refused. I said it's legally not correct. Until they prevailed on me. You know, Graphy, we respect elders. I grudgingly went there, and immediately I came out of there, I resigned from participating in SDF activities. So it is most unfortunate. Frundi has investments outside, and I don't want to visit his ills on his progeny, because every child never asked the parent to bring him into this world. I think Frundi is in Cameroon only with one of his children. The rest of them, and I can tell you, they call me uncle, out of their own effort and a little support from their father, they're all abroad. So if Frundi is attacking the diaspora, he's setting fire on his own very house. Well, they say that when a politician speaks, take it with a pinch of salt.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I think the thing with talking with people like you is that every time we talk, there's a little more history revealed. I want to ask you a quick question. What's the difference between the two laws, the one before SDF and the one after?
The second law, the law of Ahijo, which was a 1962 law on the formation of political parties. Multi-party was not banned in Cameroon by Ahijo. It was there. But they used state terrorism to stop anybody from establishing a rival party. And then when they came now with the new 1990 law, they put certain conditions that you will only be registered because you register with who? With the DO who is under the control, who is a direct representative of the head of state. And if your party does not show proof of a national spread, it will not be registered. Even though in the Francophone area, people went with their wives and children and they registered political parties that were in the briefcase. That is why within a short time, they came up with 200 and something parties. And after a couple of months, the majority of those parties declared that they were in alliance with the government. So they were simply surrogates to diffuse the reality and danger that SDF was posing.
So that was a law just to contain
it was
the Ambazonia.
Only to contain SDF.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. So
all the things that are being said and done now, because when the revolution is on, there are certain things you don't discuss. That is why in a number of occasions, I have said the restoration of the independence and separate status of Ambazonia is a given. When we will get there, one of the things that we are going to do, which South Africa did, but which the content of which will be different, the framework similar, is a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. All the truth about our history, the crimes that people had committed, they will have to come and confess. So, and if you do not confess, the tribunal, the post-war tribunal, will try you. And if you had acquired ill-gotten wealth, if you had compromised the life and property of your brother or your neighbor and so on, justice, as we know it, will be handed down.
Yes, thank you for. There's some important points you're emphasizing there, and one of them that you just emphasized, and I've heard this from a lot of people, that that there are people in Ambazonia right now that are seizing the properties or confiscating the properties of their brothers and sisters or their family members, or even of strangers, because they believe that they will never come back. No, they will come back to Ambazonia, and at that point, like the prominent lawyer just expressed, all of these things will be settled, and you don't want to be on the other side. You don't want to be on the side of those who you don't want to be on the side of those who are taking advantage of people fighting for Ambazonia. If you want to be against them, then good luck to you, because La Republique right now already knows that this thing is coming to an end. And I think when we go and talk about something that Barrister Bobga already touched on, you will realize that they are right now doing some very they're doing some defensive moves in a situation where things are coming very fast at them to end the struggle, and the way they will end it, it will end the way the Ambazonians want. If you listen to what Barrister just talked about, it seems to me that La Republique did everything to stop what is happening now happen. And I think when he initiated the lawyer strike, And the way it was pitched, La Republique had no choice but to come with guns because what they've tried to prevent through law, through legislature, is coming fast. And it's coming from lawyers, it's coming from people who are self-employed people. So this our struggle has taken a long time because La Republique looked for different ways of containing it with and they succeeded because they were always, because one of the things that Cameroon did to Ambazonians is deprive them of their own wealth. And so put everybody in a beggarly situation, in a very desperate situation, and they've used these crumbs to bribe everybody. But when the lawyers came up, and I remember when the lawyers came up, Barrister Bobga himself wrote, and I read it in 2015, that they need no money from anybody. And I think that was already spelling a lot of doom to whoever wants to come and challenge them, because don't bring your money. And so in Cameroon, it's either bribe or the gun. And so they brought the gun. And boy, that only hastened the demise of their dream, if I can say that, the demise of their dreams in Ambazonia. And that fight is coming to an end. So right now, everybody should be deciding where they want to be. You're either with the past or with the future.
Well, that reminds me, in 2016, I can tell you my home became a destination, a political destination, because several delegations of government officials, ministers, secretary of states, for 1 or 2 weeks, they were swarming my compound. And a good number of them came with bags of money, let me tell you. And I told them, I don't need any money. Some will come and look at my house and say, oh, this is a beautiful house. And you have not even painted it and you are living inside. I say it's on purpose. It's because I don't want any dirty money on my wall. First of all, the house is built with sun-dried block, sun-baked blocks. And I am living the biblical pronouncement of, from earth ye came and back to earth ye shall return. Don't bother about it. So long as I can sleep in the house, that's fine. But let me tell you what. There is a Procureur General in Bamenda who was my assistant house captain in Sase College. His minister instructed him, because I insulted the minister. Well, I didn't insult him. I said the truth about him. He failed exams in Enam and repeated. And now he's like the superstar legal mind in Cameroon, to be minister for all his life. They concocted a story that the government gave me 300 million francs. But if I received 300 million francs with the shrewd businessmen that I have as friends all over the world, would I be doing care job? You see, the Cameroon government is so dumb because it has brains, but it has stopped the brain from working, and it allows Champs-Élysées to think for them. So whatever the case, our people must know that it is not our might, but God has blessed us with integrity. Ambazonians have integrity. A few of them may fall on the wayside, but the majority of Ambazonians have integrity, which is destined to shake off the foundation of French influence in Black Africa, and that will be a liberation of Africa. The movement is already coming like a centrifugal force. Mali has shaken off France. Côte d'Ivoire, with Laurent Gbagbo being freed by the International Criminal Court and going back to Ivory Coast. Things are happening. There will be this move by Russia is going to trigger the United States that is very interested in energy security in the Gulf of Guinea to rethink and know whom to ally with. And when once Ambazonia is liberated, Ambazonia will become the fountain of liberty. Just like the world has been looking at the Statue of Liberty in New York, that's how the whole Africa will be looking at Ambazonia, because we're going to put our own Statue of Liberty on top of Mount Fako. Everybody will see it and will be freed, because it is not only going to be a physical Statue of Liberty, it is going to be a divine one, that when you look at it, you become free.
Thank you, Barrister. You know, I I can count how many times you've said freedom, 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 free, 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 and you're saying a lot of that because it's more and more becoming apparent. Because I think when you started 5 years ago, they thought it was a pipe dream. But yes, you are using freedom very, very accurately, and I'm saying this because, you know, whoever thought that the United States government will be giving TPS to Cameroonians? Whoever thought that? You see, Cameroon has been trying for the longest time that they don't start fitting into these type of groups that TPS are being offered for their citizens not to go to their own country. You understand what I'm saying? So what this temporary protective status that was given to Cameroonians, what that does, it puts Cameroon under the same country like Venezuela, Myanmar, Haiti, Afghanistan, and Ukraine, just to mention a few. That's where it puts Cameroon. And so a Tanganji who likes to go and say there's no, in fact, that Cameroon is Africa in miniature, is wrong. It's a war zone. And it's a war that let me just finish, it's a war that a lot of important people who lead opinion in the world have said it is an unfair war against the Ambazonian people. That is what the Ambazonian people have been saying since 1961, and yes, it is becoming true. Talked a little more about that, and also the TPT is just one, and I think when we go to talk about the Wagner Group, I think we'll see how it is things like these, and that is making La République know that the end of the game is coming, and these are desperate moves.
Yeah. As far as the TPS is concerned, Cameroon, South Ambazonians have been coming here and obtaining asylum because the U.S. government, in its asylum policy, knows that there is a strong case that Ambazonians have. But because diplomacy is what it is, even the members of the citizens of La République, they have arguments because of the irresponsibility and brutality of its government against Ambazonia, with derivative consequences on them. Even those people who are tangentially affected by the war that has been encapsulated in the territory of Ambazonia, speaks to the motivation to grant TPS. Because TPS is less than asylum. If you are granted temporary protected status in the United States, it means that it is going to benefit just you, the applicant. You cannot bring your family member, whether a spouse, parents, or children. But it is a major step, because anybody who is applying for asylum now has a reinforcement Because a good lawyer will refer to, just look at the reasons which have motivated the US government to grant temporarily protected status. And even though they are using Cameroon, they are just being politically correct. That TPS is meant for Ambazonians because there is no war in any inch of the territory of La République du Cameroon. There is threat.
Even let me just add here that even when the soldiers of Cameroon come into Ambazonia, whenever they meet somebody and he is French speaking, they don't touch him, they protect him.
No. And in fact, people have been talking about Boko Haram and the problem in the east. Those problems have existed 10 years before the Ambazonian problem. Why did the American government not grant TPS to Cameroon because of Boko Haram?
And I've heard people say that they just threw in the Boko Haram thing, just mix it up, just for diplomatic reasons.
Boko Haram is like you've put enough garlic, and then you say you want it to smell differently. You go and put some onion. What effect? But we have a responsibility anyway. We have a responsibility. We need to organize ourselves speedily to show that we are coherent, we are united, and we can talk as a people. We can get into deals that are sustainable. And I need hardly emphasize, in terms of quality and quantity, the viable diasporan Ambazonia is nowhere else than in the United States. So organize the United States, and the storm in the teacup that took place in Nigeria in the name of conclaves will fizzle out, and more concrete things will happen because no Ambazonian American is looking up to a post in Ambazonia. They just want to have that psychological bath. They want to heal themselves that where we come from is a free nation and we can go there on vacation. So we in the United States, we have an urgent responsibility to make sure we quickly organize ourselves and give direction to who the people of Ambazonia are. Like people with knowledge, with skill, with experience, and unshakable integrity that can deliver on their word. This is the kind of people that the United States, Canada, Britain, Germany, they are looking up to doing business with. The world is so wired these days that you cannot be a one-tree forest. Even if you're a one-tree forest, the pollens from your flowers are bound to interact with pollens from other flowers and change the size and color of your tree. So we need to quickly organize. Remember, I had an interview with you sometime. And that was in 2017. I remember vividly, 30th of March. I did not think it before the interview, but it popped out of me. And I told you, when after the interview, you asked me, where did this come from? I say, God inspired me to speak. I told you that in 5 years from that 30th of March, plus or minus, we will be on the negotiation table. I still hold to that, the truth of that statement, that with this TPS, as La République and France are peeing and drinking, they will soon sue for peace. But we should be careful, because if we are not organized as a strong people who have proven their mettle, we will not be able to negotiate properly. But I think we know ourselves sufficiently to be able to march forward henceforth as one person. I can tell you we have less than 3 months to organize the United States. This summer must not expire without the United States being properly organized and in a professional manner and in a democratic manner where there is a free flow of communication from bottom up and down to give leadership to the revolution of Ambazonia and conclude the race, because we will not lack support.
Barrister, I really thank you for first for coming coming to this interview on a very short notice. I just spoke to you last night and you're able to come. But I want to say that I brought this TPT thing, and I'm glad that you've really elaborated on it. And and I want to say way more optimistic than I'm thinking. But look, you've championed a lot of things that nobody believed in, so I'm going to give you the optimism and move it and move the goalpost as far as you've taken it. But let me say this. One of the things that you alluded to about organizing the United States, this TPT did not come about easily. It came about through a lot of lobbying, through a lot of background work. In fact, it came also, even people outside of Ambazonia looked at the situation in Ambazonia and were part of the lobbying. So I'm trying to emphasize the whole, what you talked about, organizing the United States, is because there were very, very, very strong efforts that lobbied to get this, and they lobbied for a long time. And I think, so apart from the West trying to move its energy needs towards Africa, away from the Middle East, those things don't happen because they would do it the easiest way. If they can do it without TPT and upset La République, they would do it. But I can tell you that it took a lot of lobbying from Ambazonians who you don't see, who you don't hear about, and it's work that they don't go announcing it. It also took other advocates, so this came through lobbying. And I'm trying to emphasize what you were talking about in terms of Ambazonians organizing in the United States in order to move these things faster and also give the confidence to the international players who have interest in our country and who can stand in the way of us getting our country back if we do not, put the kind of pressure that was put to get TPS going.
I will quicken to add here that you have used an expression repeatedly, which is very critical: lobbying. Lobbying. The government of Cameroon Republic, with all sorts of professional and financial support from France, has hired 2 lobby firms in the United States that have been running their game. And the TPS is an indication of the failure of those lobbyists.
Yes, absolutely.
Even though it has made individual Americans in those lobby firms rich. And I can assure you, one of the lobby firms, just when shortly after Siseko was betrayed and abducted with his other colleagues, they approached me that they wanted me to come back into leadership. And I told them my problem is not about leadership. I am engaged in revolutionary lawyering and not political leadership. At least because I recognize that we are in a revolution. These people were ready to put their money even. They prepared a contract for me to sign and commit Ambazonia, that they will look for the money and finance my leadership. And I told them that's wrong, except you think that I went to a law school under palm tree and read books different from those used by graduates of Harvard. But that, no. We read the same books, and I'm not going to reason differently. So I like to say this to all Ambazonians who are interested. Take this idea of lobbying seriously. Lobbying through lobby firms can cost you the budget of a nation that we don't have. How can we go about this? The United States has a number of senators, United States senators. It has congressmen. In every state, you have senators and you have congressmen. If the number of American Ambazonians and Ambazonian residents in the United States were to organize themselves properly, not block by block, but county by county, like our brother is doing in Lowell. When we organize ourselves and become politically conscious and realistic and active, we go along with the politicians there, they will carry our message to Congress. They will carry our message to the White House. Like even in the judiciary, there is a degree of enlightenment that comes from the grassroots. Elections, midterm elections are coming. Instead of going to Achu houses, don't only contribute through zeal. Go and meet your senator who is running for election or your congressman and tell him that in your neighborhood, you are going to distribute 100 of his flyers. He has already taken note of you. The day you appear in his office in Congress, you'll be received properly. And he who does not plant cannot harvest. And this is political investment I'm talking about. When your own time comes, Ambazonia will be on the lips of every legislator who matters, from local government level right up to the US Senate. Take me seriously about it.
Barrister, thank you. Sometimes I think just having you on an interview covers so much ground. And I'm saying this because, I just did a program, my last program, where I introduced ASIC, AACIC, and I know you are part of that whole system. You've been working on that kind of a thing to happen for a very long time. So what you're talking about are things that you have done. You have been wanting this to happen, and I'm sure you know that the nucleus is already formed. I think it should we need to grow it. But I want to go back in the show that I did. I started by showing protests and I showed the protest in New York. It was I think that protest was organized by the Takumbon women. It was a protest where people came out, and they came out with their hearts and their passion, and they made all the noise and everything work. There's a place for that.
I was there and I made a statement.
Yes,
on that occasion.
Yes. But I think but the differentiating between the protest and lobbying is that when you protest, if it's not followed up with the lobbying, it ends with that protest and nothing gets accomplished. Would you say that?
Protest is like planting without mulching and weeding and hoping to harvest. The spear grass will kill the crop. But lobbying is a project. First of all, you get the seeds and you make sure that they are not contaminated. You plant them well. You move them from the nursery and transplant them into the farm. You water the farm to avoid the crop being killed by drought. What do I mean by this? You are consistent in your supportive communication with the person whom you hope tomorrow will talk on your behalf from within their own house.
Yes, and that does not...
You don't only talk with the Americans, you also do something, because we out here, we have a voice, even over our powerful, resilient people who are still within the Ambazonian territory. And the best thing we can do is not to give them bad advice. We should give them good advice. You know that I am totally non-violent. I've been very consistent on that. But I also say that when the United Nations human rights system recognizes that when you push a man to the wall, you push him until the wall begins to push him and he finds himself in between two walls, he has a right to fight back. If you push him up the wall, he has the right to crash on you. That if there has to be death, both of you can die.
I just want to go back to the other topic you talked about, lobbying. I wanted to say that protesting on the street it's okay, and I think the barrister did really give an analogy that I cannot match in saying how important it is that after that manifestation, there then needs to be the lobbying work, because basically what you've done with a protest is say that, hey, there is a problem here and we want to be heard. And then you then find out who needs to actually hear about it and who can do something about it, and then you go to those people and speak. We haven't been able to do that in the United States. And but I think whenever a group of people have met and they have concentrated their efforts, we have had results. We've had results from some of the resolutions in Congress, and we have results like this TPT. And so, but we now need to be more consistent and be persistent. And you do not do that without having an organization that does that kind of work, which is where AACIC is coming into the game, to say we want to play this role. We want to coordinate our efforts. We want to develop standards where we all go everywhere with the same information, same facts, and we would accomplish. We would accomplish. And I think the barrister also said this is not a political thing. The people who, and very soon you will know all the people behind AACIC. And I just come out with it because we need to start talking to our people. But none of those people are politically motivated. But like every other Ambazonian who is in the diaspora, we do live somewhere else, but we know where our hearts is. We know where our families are. We know where justice needs to take place. We know whose humanity has been challenged. We know why we left our homes and left our families behind and our friends and everything we knew in life. And we don't want anybody else to leave that place. And the best way to do it is to organize ourselves and assume the work of tendering the seed that was planted in the protest, just like the barrister has described. Barrister, I want to move on to another topic.
Before you move to another topic, let me just say something here. And this I'm addressing to all Ambazonians, whether they are within the territory or in the diaspora. And I'm speaking by adopting the example of Christ. We just went through Easter, where we are told Christ sacrificed his life in order to save us. That is the essence of service. if I were to say something to all the leadership, your leadership is flawed by the fact that you are thinking about power and position, which can fizzle out very easily. Because when everybody is driven by the desire to have power and position, you end up in a dog fight. The meat gets rotten and the bone dries up, and nothing is palatable again for any of the dogs or for all the dogs. But when the dogs go hunting and they bring the whole meat and deliver to the village, the honor that the entire people bestow on you is like an elephant that if you start eating, you cannot finish it in your lifetime. I pray that our brothers, our sisters, whether in the territory or here in the diaspora, should look at their contribution from $1 to sleepless nights, in writing, in thinking, in talking, as service to a people God had chosen. Do not bother about position. Because I tell you, you don't know the wealth that that country has. A smart person would not want to be in the civil service in Ambazonia because it is going to be unnecessary headache. But every system must have people in the public service. And we're going to have a very thin public service because there will be so much wealth to play around with. And people who are driven to power and position as a means of acquiring wealth, they bring curses on themselves and on their families for several generations to come. You don't want to do that. Be blessed by embracing humility and a disposition to serve so that you will be remembered for your good deeds rather than remembered for how much you stole and how much you will leave behind as a scar in your family, as a source of scorn for your family. Serve your people, stay with your people, don't move away from your people, and you'll be blessed. Thank you.
You know, I was listening to a professor speak, and he was saying that the only way to perpetuate something is to institutionalize it. So if you want good laws, obviously you institutionalize a body that creates those laws. And so if we want to continue our work of lobbying, I think the examples we've seen in the United States have been the countries or the organizations that have been institutionalized, and they have their countries to lobby for, and they become an institution. And so, because what institutions do is their job is to keep doing the business to keep practicing, to keep promoting whatever interest it is institutionalized to protect or to preserve or to promote. So you can see why we are moving towards saying that the American Ambazonian diaspora needs to be institutionalized, not only so that we don't get exploited by forces coming from outside, but also so that we can stay taking care of the garden, like the barrister just said. I'm still looking for a better analogy to beat the one he did. I can't find. Now, barrister, let's now go back to the Wagner team, to the Wagner thing that you've been talking about. I really wanted us to maintain this segment. I think we'll just do it very summarily now because we've already talked about it. So Bia goes to Wagner, to Russia, to sign a deal. And this, I don't know why they put Wagner here, because, you know, I don't know if to sign to work with Wagner, do you have to go through the Russian government? Do you know that? Do you know?
What I know from Central African Republic is that Wagner is a close friend of Putin. And he's a retired general who runs a mercenary company. So, very smartly, Russia does not come into a territory where it wants to operate as a nation. It backs up a Russian businessman who is Wagner, who runs this mercenary company. They call it security company, who would now be the deliverer of what is hidden in the policy of Russia, so that Russia can defend itself that I'm not there, but because it is a nation that was recruiting a businessman who pays taxes to us and they wanted our coverage, that's the commercial department of every embassy. And what is interesting is this. I think it was on the 16th or sometimes in July, in the second half of July 2016, as we were lobbying the embassies and high commissions in Yaoundé to buy into, the ideas that the common law lawyers had come up with. I booked a meeting to see the U.S. ambassador at the time. But when I went there, he was not on seat. Luckily for me, I took my colleague Barrister Yambe, who is now in Kondengi, and we went along so that there should be a second ear and eye to listen and know what I was discussing with them. We were received by the second in command in the presence of the political affairs officer. In my discussion, the second in command of that mission lamented that their hands are tied, that they can only exploit a human rights clause in bilateral agreements that they have with Cameroon government. And that because we have carefully carved out our argument along the human rights arena, they will avoid the self-determination that carries independence issue and focus on the human rights abuses. And he promised me that when the ambassador comes back, he was going to call Paul Biya and tell him this is an alarming situation and it is what we had envisaged by including this human rights clause in the bilateral agreement to supply you arms for fighting Boko Haram and training. Honestly speaking, the man lived up to his words. The following day, the Minister of Justice was instructed to call the lawyers and have a discussion with us. So when he called us, I told them that I don't have any business going for a workshop with somebody who was unable to pass his exams in School of Magistracy. But I was also motivated by the fact that the attempt at talking mediation or peace building, where the minister delegate in the Ministry of Justice had a meeting with us in one of the hotels downtown, typical style. They did not allow us come with our group that we were moving. They decided to bring some pro-CPDM lawyers and put them in the group, and even francophone lawyers, to come and discuss the problem. When I got there, some of my younger colleagues who had already been corrupted were now posing as leaders of the common law lawyers. And that one, I'm going to give the details in a small book I'm writing. I told them, no, you cannot call us as parties to a conflict and then you denature the conflict and ask us to discuss it. All these things that you have put that we should discuss, they are not exactly the things that we are talking about. Go and look at our resolutions. That's where the problem is well stated. So, Wagner, as I told the second in command in the embassy, I said, Russia is already in Central African Republic under the guise of the Wagner Group. In Nigeria, you have Biafra. That when it will implode in Cameroon, the only place you can hide and try to help will be Ambazonia. So you people have to hasten up. I don't know whether I was taken seriously or not, but I believe with the timing of the TPS, that the TPS had already picked up intelligence about the development of this cooperation agreement between Wagner, supported by or guaranteed by France, and the Republic of Cameroon. So,
Why do you mean guaranteed by France?
No, guaranteed by Russia. Sorry, Russia guaranteeing. You know, France is now taking the position it deserves. You know, recently Macron went to Russia trying to go and plead behind the back of the other Western power to go and plead with Putin. No Russian official went and received him at the airport. Instead, it's the French ambassador who went and received him. That was a solid slap.
But do you think Cameroon would make such a deal with a Russian?
No, France must have. Look, France that might be a way of indirectly trying to sellotape the broken relationship between France and Russia. They might have asked the ambassador, say, talk to Minister of External Affairs or Foreign Affairs in Moscow, that they shouldn't mind. We'll stay us back and give them the leeway, because America is not supporting us fully and properly with this problem of Ambazonia. So we'll move back and you can enter there, then we'll cut the deal together. Because France is that mischievous, you know? So Wagner Group is implanting itself. I know there are a lot of Africans who are supporting the idea of Russia coming in. But let me tell you, we have brains, we have resources, we have wealth. We don't need no goddamn godfather. We should be our own godfathers. But we should partner with people who are ready to recognize and respect us in doing business. So that, like Malaysia, which came and took seeds from CDC and from Sierra Leone, and now they produce the best palm oil in the world. We can also grow within a short time.
Yeah, let's keep it within this Wagner thing, because you know, as we're talking, I'm thinking, okay, so they have the Israeli Moaz group in there. Now they're bringing how many mercenaries groups do they? Is it a problem that can be solved even by the world's military in bringing the world's military into Ambazonia? Why? So we have the Israelis, we have now we're bringing the Russians, and they have their Cameroon military and all the different branches. How many military does it take to get this problem solved?
Well, let me tell you, I have told you that the Cameroon Republic is a desperate entity now. A sinking man can hang on a snake even at the deepermost part of the river or ocean. Anything now goes. And you will also understand that Cameroon as a state is not even capable of negotiating with a security company that uses rubber gun. It is the private individuals who are faking that Biya is still capable of running a government, who are using money they have stolen to hire Wagner to provide them a private militia to continually destabilize a place and protect their ill-gotten wealth. But it's not going to work.
No, it's not going to work. Do you know how much it is to, I was reading, to Wagner costs $10 million a month. Does La Republique have $10 million to pay Wagner each month?
If they have $10 million, you know, they will do better things with it. Just forget about it. Wagner will look. What is going to happen is that, especially the way Russia has come in openly. You know, we have gold mines in the east. Wagner is not going to ask them to pay cash. They will just station themselves near the gold mine and then say that they are training Cameroonian soldiers who will be dying like flies while they are harvesting our resources.
Yeah, I want to go back to analogy you made that a drowning man would hang on to a snake. Look, why are they looking for the solution in water where they can drown? The solution is on land. You know what I'm saying? So they're really fishing for the solution.
No, I can even
else.
take it further that the solution is on paper. On the 16th of July 2016, I filed a petition before the Constitutional Council of Cameroon. The essence of it was, show me an act of union that brought La Republique du Cameroon and Southern Cameroon together. If you cannot show me, let us be gentlemen, recognize that truth and say sorry, and we part our ways. Up to this moment, such an easy matter that can be treated within 5 minutes, because you always read the file before you come to court. They have suppressed that action. I've even sent people words, feelers, that with modern technology, I'm ready to prosecute the case through Zoom. No answer. The next thing you will hear, because there was a fire in the Constitutional Council, the next thing you will hear that there's no file that is in existence, but I had scanned them and I have them. If they want copies, I'll give it to them.
Before you go, and this we're concluding. Before you go, Barrister, I want you to state something that I heard you state before. You said they had a clean deal, but they did not execute it right, which is why you're asking the question. Show me what do you call that document?
The Act of Union.
Show me the Act of Union. Yes, in another interview, you said it that it was kind of a done deal, but they did not execute it right, which is why they don't have a Act of Union, right?
Yes, there is a certain British diplomat who was representing Britain in the United Nations. His name was Cohen. He was the one who put his feet on the ground. He said, no way, Southern Cameroon cannot accede to independence. He's the one who introduced the idea of independence by joining. And of course, that was negotiated with France. But in the foolishness of France, they celebrated the supper before the meat got ready. They arrogantly decided not to vote when the plebiscite results came for validation. And they instructed all French-speaking African countries, so-called, not to vote. Only Mali stubbornly voted in favor of our accession to independence, which means that La Republique du Cameroon, in its own foolishness, abdicated the opportunity of being party to the sealing of the decision manipulated and produced at the plebiscite. The consequence is that Southern Cameroon now became like a stranded bride that offered itself to be married, and the groom disappeared, only to turn around and say, I want you to be my mistress forever. It doesn't work that way. So they had the opportunity of casting their vote in favor of Southern Cameroon becoming independent by joining La République du Cameroon, and that would have sealed it. But now they went to Fumban to try to patch it, and they were so hasty under the influence of champagne, they did not conclude the Fumban constitutional talks. Bile and the colleagues of his party, they challenged it, and then they tried to appease them that, okay, we will postpone it. As brothers, we will still come back and discuss these details. But those details have never been discussed. When they wanted to start exploiting oil in Victoria, going straight into Dibuncha and particularly Indian, they hurriedly came up with the referendum, which also failed in mathematical terms. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. How do you come about dividing with different numbers now? It is Southern Cameroonians who had a plebiscite to show whether they want to join Nigeria or Republic of Cameroon. Now, to test after 10 years whether that decision at the plebiscite was working or had worked, you went and brought 4 times the population of Southern Cameroonians to come and vote in a referendum marked by we and yes ballot. The thing just flew out through the window. So by corruption, by mischief, by dishonesty, the Republic of Cameroon listened to France in its arrogant and brutal manner and missed the opportunity of sealing the enslavement of Southern Cameroon. But I want to think that it is not their mischief, but the divine intervention that God has said, Ambazonia, it doesn't matter how long, shall be free and shall give freedom to other people.